or a deformed region. So the area of that deformed region is actually required to find out the the hardness or the hardness of this material rather. So this is so there is also other way to find it out. The other way is known as the hard is scratch hardness. So the scratch hardness technique or the Mohs technique. I mean, in that process, you generally don't see that in metallurgy. Mostly, you will find it in mineralogy. I mean, the people who deal with the different minerals and all. What they do, they try to take two minerals. One is harder than the other, and then they try to rub the harder mineral against the softer one. Okay, and that harder mineral hardness is already known. Okay, so that harder mineral, once they scratch against the other, what they try to find it out is that if the other mineral gets scratched by this harder mineral, or I mean by the first mineral, then this means that the second mineral is softer. But now, if the second mineral does not get scratched by the first mineral, then definitely the second mineral is harder, right? I mean, it won't get otherwise scratched. No? Otherwise, there will be no scratch in the second mineral. So in that case, so that is another way, that is called the Mohs hardness determination, or the Mohs scale. I'm not actually discussing it here because it's a metallurgical term. It's not related to metallurgy, so I'm not discussing that. Yeah. So okay, now let's start about there are two very common hardness determination techniques. The first is the brittle micro hardness testing. The brittle micro hardness testing, what you essentially have is that you have a steel ball. So I was initially talking of this indenter, and that the geometry of the indenter has to be, it has to be a kind of steel ball where the diameter has to be equal to capital D. Now, if you apply a load L, or you can apply a load that is capital P also, it may not be, it is not necessarily that it has to be capital L, just be, I mean, can be written as any, right? So it's load in kgf, kilogram force. The D is the diameter of that steel ball, and small d is the depression diameter. Because now, why am I interested in this depression diameter? Is because this depression diameter is actually used to find out the area, or the projected area of plastic deformation. Because, see, anyways, when I am deforming it, I have to remove the indenter after some certain point of time. But the plastic deformation is permanent. And because of the plastic deformation, there will be a spherical. No, if you project it in 2D, now suppose you have to, this you have to imagine. Now, once you remove this indenter, what you essentially find is that in 2D you have a circle, isn't it? 2D you will have a circle. And this 2D, when you have a circle, so the diameter, the projected diameter, the diameter of that circle will be small d. But the D, that capital D that is there, is nothing but the diameter of the the diameter of the indenter. So this is actually the formula you have to, you have to use in order to find out the BHN, or the brittle hardness number. This is 2P or the 2L. L is nothing but the applied load, or P is nothing but the applied load, normal load. Okay, divided by pi D into D minus square root of D square minus D square. So where capital D is the steel ball diameter in millimeter, and small d is the depression diameter in the millimeters. Okay. So so this just wait some time. I don't know. I mean, it's the screen is not moving or something. What is happening? Just wait for some time. I'll again start sharing once. Just a second. I will start sharing again. I don't know why it is not moving. Yeah, can you see the screen? No, you can see the entire screen right now. You can see the entire screen, guys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, okay. Now, the thing that I was explaining. So, in this brittle micro hardness testing technique, what essentially we do is that we actually make an indentation by a carbide ball. I mean, why is it? Now initially that I had said that the sphere diameter, the diameter of the sphere has to be definitely, not diameter. The sphere of diameter D has to be harder than the second material. Now, suppose I have a steel. Okay, you have a steel, or of course, if you have aluminum, that is better for you because aluminum is much softer as compared to steel. Even if you have copper, that is also good because copper will be again, much softer as compared to steel. So suppose you have a hardened material. Now generally the carbide balls are used because these are very hard materials. Okay, the carbide balls, and these have a test load. Now we are applying a test load, or it's a uniaxial load of magnitude L, or magnitude P also, you can say. This is formula. And the size D, this small d of the resultant indentation is measured with the help of calibrated optical microscope. I mean, definitely there are lots of other techniques to measure it, because now if I don't know, if I start discussing in details, it might be a bit hard to grasp now. It comes with experience only, but okay. So this small d is basically nothing but the diameter of the projected area that I was talking to you. So based on this, we can find out the BHN, that is the Brinell microhardness. Okay. So okay. Now, any doubts on this? First, please ask. Any doubts?
Where can you be a bit slow because we're not able to like hear properly?
Okay. Okay. So okay, which part do you want me to repeat the slide or?
No, we understood this part, but
Okay, no
it
problem.
was too fast.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I was speaking a bit fast. Okay. Sorry for that. Okay, I'll be a bit slow now. Okay. But anyways, did you understand, or if you did not understand something, please tell me. I mean, because if I move on to the next one, then coming back might be tricky for some people. So, all understood this?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hardness you're learning for the
Yes,
first
sir.
time, right? The hardness you're learning for the first time, right? I mean, someone told me. So might be, this might be a bit tricky. See, in metallurgy, what we essentially try to do is that we try to find out the hardness. Okay, we try to find out the hardness by indenting a material or by deforming the surface of a material plastically, and that is the technique by which by which we are able to find out. I mean, we know the load, right? We know the load that we are applying on the material, on the surface of the material, and we know the diameter of whatever. I am talking of the diameter in terms of Brinell microhardness. I will soon show you an indenter which has got a much different geometry. Okay, the indenter will have a much different. I mean, this is only. I mean, this spherical geometry is not a hard and fast rule. I mean, if it is Brinell, then it has to be a carbide ball with a certain diameter d. Okay, and otherwise, if it is the other technique, for example, the next technique that I'm going to show you, the geometry of the indenter will be much different. It's not the same. So okay, now again so the question that might arise. Okay, fine. So let us, I think, go to the next slide and explain you. Then we can discuss. We can compare both these techniques. Okay. So if you have understood this, so moving on to the next slide. See, in the next slide, we talk about the other technique that is called the Ficker's microhardness technique. Okay, so earlier we were talking about the Brinell, BRINNEL. So earlier we were talking about that, and now I'm talking about the other hardness. So generally, Ficker's microhardness testing in most of the labs, okay, in most of the laboratories which deal with physical deformation behavior, to say mechanical deformation behavior. Okay, especially with hardness. Most of the people, even in research papers, report the Vickers microhardness. Because why? Now the question is why, and it has got a certain reason, of course. Vickers microhardness is nothing, but it is the it is again similar to the Brinell microhardness. It is again the measurement of hardness based on the area of indentation. It's the same thing. I mean, it's not different. I mean, the principle of Vickers microhardness measurement and the Brinell microhardness measurement, they are not, I mean, there is not much difference, I'll rather say. So, but now the question that might arise in our mind is that, so okay, fine, we have the Brinell microhardness technique, but now what is the need to go for a Vickers microhardness test? I mean, why is there a need to go for a additional technique, which again improves the complexity of understanding, right? I mean, increases the complexity of understanding. So it's I mean, rather to say why people came up with this technique, or the Vickers microhardness technique, is that it is advantageous over Brinell microhardness technique because of why? Because of minimal fluctuations in hardness with variation in load. For example, I will tell you. I'll give you a simple example. Now, suppose you have a mild steel. Okay, so mild steel. Have you heard of? I think they might have taught you. Mild steel. Anyone? What is mild steel? MILD, mild steel. So, anyone has any idea what is mild steel? You know what is steel, right? Hello? Yeah, anyone has any idea?
Yes. No, not about mild steel.
Okay. So, okay, well, what is steel then? First, what is steel? What is steel?
A plain steel can be considered as a alloy of carbon and iron.
Which, okay, first part of the definition. Second part,
You asked about steel, right?
yeah, what is steel? I just asked what is steel.
So it is an alloy of carbon and iron, and with carbon in very less percentage
What is
compared to
this
the.
less? What is less? What is that magnitude? Less.
The phase diagram which we study in, we study
Uh-huh.
about until up to 6.78% carbon.
That is fine. I mean, I'm not going into that much. No, I'm talking about what.
So if we consider alpha steel, then it is up to 0.022%.
0.022.
of carbon.
If it is alpha ferrite, no, I'm not talking about alpha steel. There is nothing called alpha steel. That is called that is called alpha ferrite. No. I'm talking about what is steel. I mean, what is the maximum carbon content in the steel? And that is, I'm already telling you the part of the answer. What is the maximum carbon content in steel? Any steel. I mean, plain carbon steel, not any steel. Plain carbon steel. I mean, any steel actually. You cannot be having more than that. I mean, then you can't call it steel. Impossible.
2.18%. I
Right.
think I have.
Yes. Exactly. So it's a 2.18% carbon should be the maximum amount of carbon that should be present in steel. Okay, and what is the temperature at which it is? I mean, what is the temperature? Okay, do you know? This is just a
No,
curiosity.
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
don't.
It's around 1130 degree maximum temperature that is the maximum limit. Okay, I mean the 2% of carbon at 1130 degrees. Okay, so that is actually what to say, rather that is the maximum amount of carbon that austenite can contain. Exactly. I mean, if you look at the iron carbon phase diagram, so austenite you are all aware, no? Austenite, gamma phase. पता होगा ना? तो
Yeah. In phase diagram only.
Right. Okay. चलो. So now the question is, what is mild steel? Mild steel का मतलब क्या होता है कि it is a low carbon steel. Okay, so it's a low carbon steel, and this steel will have actually 0.258% carbon. Generally, the carbon percentage in mild steel varies from 0.2. Note it down. I think that is this is something which you have to note, because this is a composition. There is no justification I can provide. I mean, it's impossible to provide justification. So rather, I can say it's a 0.25 to 0.3 weight% carbon. Okay, that is there in mild steel. In this mild steel, now coming back to hardness. Now let us come back to hardness. So mild steel, the problem is, I mean, the thing is, this is my personal experience. So once I was in like you only in NIT Durgapur, and I was given this mild steel, and we were being told by to measure this Vickers microhardness. Okay, there's a machine in your department. If you have noticed it, I don't know how much. I think because of this online classes, you might not have been able to see that machine. So there, so the hardness we were told to measure, and then we were having different loads. Okay, there are different load cells. So the first load was around 1 kgf. The second was around 2 kgf, something. It went around up to say about maximum you can go in, because micro hardness, the maximum load that you can go is around up to 2000 kgf. Okay, 2000 kgf maximum you can go, but not all machines. I mean, there is again machine limitations. So there, what you essentially have to do is that when you increase the load, you first of all should ensure that your hardness value should not change. For example, if you are doing the testing at 1 kg of load, for example, this speed, if I am showing you this speed, okay, this is the indenter. And this is, I mean, this is not the indenter, this is the surface. Okay? This surface of rather to say the support of the indenter, not the surface also. This is the support of the indenter. This is the indenter. This cone that you are able to see, this is actually the indenter. So this indenter, we are actually initially having a load of around 1 kgf. Okay, or even you can also go up to around 0.1 kgf also we can apply. It depends on the materials. So I started applying a load of 1 kgf, and I got a hardness value of around something around 200 HV or 200 Vickers micro hardness number. Second time I applied, it was around 2 kgf. I got around 204 point something kgf. So this way I kept on increasing till 10 kgf. and I found the numbers were, within error limits, right? I mean, it was around from 200 kgf to say maximum. It was varying around something around 215 kgf or something. So this is something which is going to tell that the Vickers micro hardness, even if you increase the load, your hardness value remains constant. Your hardness value does not drop. I mean, it is not that in 1 kgf you will get around 200 kgf, and so 2 kg when you are applying 200 HV, and suddenly you start applying a load of 2 kgf, and you are going to get a hardness of around 300 HV. I mean, in that case, that is the problem which people used to face in Britain. That is the problem. So because of that, this this technique was devised. And hardness, can you please mute if you are not speaking? Please do that.
Here are the steps to forward email messages sent to your Gmail account to another address.
Can you please mute? Someone please mute. Someone's mic is still on, and
gmail.com.
please do so.
And then select settings. Click the forwarding and port or IRAM tab. From the first.
Okay. So thank you for muting.
And the email address to which you would.
Okay, so fine. So the main thing is that when we talk of Vickers micro hardness, so why did people arrive at the Vickers micro hardness, and why did we still not get stuck with the Bredel micro hardness technique? So that was the question. No, the question is, so if you have the Vickers micro hardness over a range of loads, your hardness will be same. It will not be changed. I mean, it will not be different. It will not be dramatically different. So in that case, Vickers micro hardness is still more, rather to say, reliable technique, okay, or a reliable way to report the hardness values of different materials. Number one. And secondly, now the question is, what is actually this Vickers micro hardness? So once we know that Vickers micro hardness has evolved, actually, so what is this Vickers micro hardness? So it's nothing but the same principle. Based on the area of indentation only, it is going to measure the hardness. But here, the hardness, the indentation will be made on the specimen by a diamond indenter. Okay, and this diamond indenter will, so you have to think in how a diamond looks like, right? And this, there is a pyramid. Okay, so there's a kind of pyramid. So it's a diamond pyramid indenter, we call it. With a diamond pyramid indenter with a square base and with the included angle between the opposite sides of the pyramid equal to 136 degree. I will show you the geometry here. So this is the geometry. Okay, so this is the exact geometry. Now suppose you have suppose this is the indenter stand. This I don't have to worry. This is the this is the pyramid. So all the different faces of the pyramid. Okay, so if you look at the included angles between the opposite ends of the pyramid or the opposite sides of the pyramid, it's actually 136 degrees, isn't it? So this 136. So this from here to here. So basically, so you are actually having this 136 degrees, the included angle. We call it as the included angle between the opposite faces or the opposite sides rather of the pyramid. Okay, so this is the geometry of the Vickers indenter. Now, note. Initially, I told that when I am doing the indentation using the Bredel micro hardness technique, I was using a spherical ball, right? I was using a spherical ball with a diameter equal to d. Now here in this Vickers micro hardness testing, I'm using a square based pyramid, okay, or a diamond square. Now the first thing is, the first question that might arise is, why do I use a diamond? What is the news? I can use any other thing. No, diamond is very costly. Then why do I use diamond? So for that, again, you have to refer back to the first thing, that when I use the word when I use diamond, see, so diamond, I think you know, right? There is a special property of diamond. What is that special property? In terms of hardness, diamond is, you can speak up.
The hardest material present.
Hardest material present. So if you have any material, howsoever hard it might be, even even alumina, Al2O3, which is also hard, even feldspar, even again I'm started talking about minerals. I'm not talking about minerals now. Let's start talking about metals or the different alloys only. I can talk of titanium alloys. I can talk of high strength steels. So these everything, even if when you use diamond, nothing sustains. No? Nothing sustains the plastic deformation which is being made by diamond, because diamond is the hardest. Nothing can resist the what to say, the plastic deformation which is being made by diamond on the surface of that material. So diamond is the hardest. That is the first logic why people use diamond. Now, second thing is, so what is the, so now the second question is, why did we have another geometry or a different type of geometry in this Vickers microhardness? Now again, this is done using a lot of hit and trial method, and people find out, and I mean people found out that I have not explained in this slide, but the people found out that so it is there in the ASTM standards also, that when you have a pyramid with this kind of geometry, where the included angle between the opposite sides of the pyramid is equal to 136 degrees. So then even if you change the load, the variation or the fluctuation in the load will be the least. For example, like I have already given you an example. The first example is, now if you have a, for example, my stream that I was working on, during a third year of BTech. So I had, so this first year with the 1 kg of load, I got a hardness of around 200. Second, when I changed, I was also quite curious to know about things. So what I did, I changed the hardness, changed the load to around 2 kg and then tried to find out, what is the hardness. So now I found the hardness value to be around 203. There is not much change, right? 200, 203 scientifically, they are very close. I mean, they are within error limits, right? I mean, if it is you talk of statistics, you are within error limits. So in that case, and similarly, I went up till 10 kg of load and I went up till 220 kg. So, okay, so fine. But again, 20 kg, so maximum, if you are having a variation of around 50 kg, you can call it a significant variation. But less than 50 kg in any hardness testing method, you can't call it a significant variation. So that will lie rather, I should say that will rather lie within the error limits. Okay. So that's so that's the enormous advantage that this Vickers micro hardness testing offers you. So most of the labs, even if you go to most of the plastic, most of the mechanical deformation labs, tensile testing comes much later. First, when they do the hardness testing, they mostly try to report the values using the Vickers micro hardness values. Very few people like you find they do not actually. Most of the people don't rely on this brittle micro hardness testing. Why? Because especially at higher loads, you are going to have a huge fluctuation. You are going to have a terribly huge fluctuation in the hardness values, and that is not consistent, right? And if you have, you cannot report the steel when you are deforming at around 1 kg if you are having 200 HV, and suppose you are deforming at around 5 kg if you are going to have a hardness of around 500. That is, people, no one will accept that. So fine. So coming back to the thing. So do you see this microstructure? Do you see this microstructure? There is something which is special about this microstructure. Any idea? What is that something which is very, very special about this? I'll zoom in this microstructure so that you can see something which is very interesting. This is from my research work only. This is in IIT Madras. This is my material only, and I have done this. So what do you think are these things? What are these two big holes? Big gutters. You can see. What are these? Any idea? You can speak up. No problem. You can speak up. Whatever comes to your mind, you can talk. Any idea? Please speak up. I want you to speak up right now. You are able to understand the question, right?
Yes, it might be in a shape of square-based tetrahedron.
Square-based tetrahedron. Oh, okay. Okay, fine. So this is actually how. Okay. I will not tell the answer. Okay, fine. I will extract the answer out of you. So fine. So okay, square-based tetrahedron. Okay. But do you think this is taken under? I will give you a hint. When the material has been tilted to, the sample has been tilted to 70 degree. Then can you tell me, is this then a tetrahedron, or what should this be? Look at this, look at my cursor, where my cursor is. Look at this gutter, look at this hole. You are going to see something. So you are seeing this when the material is tilted to 70 degree. Okay, material ko aapne 70 degree you have tilted. But now, just imagine, from this, just imagine that you have not tilted the material. The material is around at 0 degree only with respect to the horizontal. You have not tilted anything. Then what do you think this geometry will look like? Or rather, what are these? And you see the size of this hole is much smaller, no? Than the size of
From the top view, it will look like a square only, na, sir.
Yes. So that's why that's why I was saying you. See, this was actually looking like a square, no? So this is a kind of square. And but now the second question is this square is bigger than this square. Why? The first top wala jo square hai, that is bigger, no? And the second square is smaller.
The top one, the load has been increased than the smaller one.
Correct. Okay. Now what interesting features do you see? Other interesting features. Now let us drag it. So here comes metrology. Okay. What other features can you see around this? Around this katas. So around these indents rather in English. So what do you see? There are something which you are seeing.
There's some types of marks around that.
These are
larger
marks. These are what? What are these?
Due to the deformation when we indent,
okay.
due to the indent.
Yeah, around the indent. So what are these? Any small, any guess? This is very, very interesting. Okay, what are these? It's okay if you don't know, but you can try. You can try speaking something.
Yes, so metal
Maybe
being rubbed, harder metal being rubbed.
Arrangement of atoms there.
Arrangement of atoms.
Or rather
this is an SEM image, right? So atoms. Is this atoms?
the structure, I mean.
Structure.
So what do you
Structure of what? Structure. No, not structure. There is something. It's not structure. There is something other than this. See, I talked of plastic deformation. Okay. So plastic deformation ke chalo to kya hota hai? Jo plastic deformation hota hai, so what happens? I think you might not have been taught this. So I think I should give the answer. Okay. You will be taught this later, but I don't know if you are being taught in a bookish way, you'll never be able to see all these things. I mean, I will tell you. So these things are nothing but the slip lines, SLIP, slip lines. Have you come across this term? Slip, SLIP, slip. Anyone? Slip, SLIP, slip. No? If no, then please tell no.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, fine, good. So I did not expect you to come across this thing. Okay, but okay. So so I will tell you. So I will give you a small funda based on this. See, whenever you are having any kind of plastic deformation, you have deformed the material plastically. What is actually going to happen is that see the material itself is going to have some resistance, no, to the plastic deformation. And so for that, the plastic deformation in the localized region, see in the local neighborhood, you can see it in the very local neighborhood. So you see this, if you this total scale bar, this is the same image, magnification is 2000, and this is the voltage. Okay, the voltage of imaging is 20 kV, and this is the scale bar 50 microns. Now here, if you are so actually this distance is around within 10 microns. Okay, you are not seeing all these things here. These are the scratches. Forget about this. These are the different grain boundaries. This is the second phase. Okay, this is the second phase. This is the B2 phase. I mean, in my steel that I'm soon going to publish this. So this second phase, this is FCC. So now basically what is you are essentially seeing is that you are going to see this feature. This feature is nothing but slip line, and this slip line is nothing but, you can call it the manifestation of plastic deformation in a material. Even if you do tensile testing in the material and the material deforms plastically, you will be able to see the slip lines. So and the other question to you is that, have you heard of this word dislocations? Dislocations.
Yes.
Dislocations.
Yes.
You have already been taught. Okay. Well, so what is, I mean, have you been taught in details, or have you just been, shown some window or something?
No, we have heard the term dislocations in terms of atoms.
In terms of atoms. Okay. So see, you can hear, so these things will be there in the books, but if you do the practical thing, so these things will not be, you cannot see atoms in any, directly if by your eyes or directly by any microscope. So see, of course, there is another type of microscope which we have at IIT Madras, and that's atom probe tomography, that you can see individual atoms there. But okay, but most of the microscopes, electron microscopes, I mean, there are certain special techniques, but okay, other than those techniques, in simple SEM, you will not be able to see atoms. What you are going to see? you are going to see essentially what? You are going to see these things, slip lines around plastic deformation. So these, if you are able to see, these lines are nothing but, these are actually a bunch of dislocations. These are actually a bunch of geometrically necessary dislocations. You can note this term down. And later you study this first, then later I can explain you what is this GND. Geometrically necessary dislocations which have developed around the different indents. You see, so here you can see that there is one orientation. Okay, so so it is like it's a northeast type of lines are facing northeast, and here you see it's a northwest type of an orientation. So actually what is happening is that you are actually having the two slip systems which are activated at the same time. It's a plastic deformation occurs by the activation of two slip systems. And I was using the word slip. So when you have been taught the word dislocations, you definitely, at a later stage, I think you'll be taught about slip. See, slip is nothing but it is the mechanism of plastic deformation. I mean, it's the most common. I cannot call slip as the only mechanism. Slip is one of the mechanisms by which plastic deformation happens in metallic materials, or in metals and alloys, of course. Right. So this is one of the mechanisms. So when this happens, actually see during plastic deformation, the dislocations start moving, right? I mean, you've been taught. So essentially what happens is that, so you have been taught this, but you might not have been taught this because when you are deforming the material plastically, the dislocations have to arrange themselves. So these dislocations have to arrange themselves in a manner to accommodate this plastic deformation. Similarly, you might also expect to see these lines around this nano indent, but here the magnification is quite less. 2000x is not that high magnification in SEM. In SEM we can go around, people can even gone to around 10,000x, 20,000x, even people have gone to 20,000x. So here is, since it's a small size, there will also be this these slip lines around this, but definitely the slip lines around this small indent will not be that predominant as compared to that for the larger indent. Okay, so these are the slip lines. So make a note of this. So these slip lines are nothing but these are the manifestation of localized plastic deformation in any material during indentation. These develop during indentation. You will find these very, very common around the near vicinity of any indent in any material. Okay, it doesn't matter on about the shape of the indentation. What matters? So these lines actually are indicating that the material is going to deform plastically at that load. And of course, it also gives thousands of other information. I'm not dragging into that. But so these slip lines is a very common feature around the localized, around the localized plastic. So this is a localized plastic deformation, right? The entire material I've not subjected to plastic deformation. There is only one small region where I have given the Vickers microindentation, isn't it? So that's it. That's it. So I mean, so is this part clear? Slip line. This funda is clear. Slip line. Yes or no? I mean, do you understand? Or was I speaking something which is very difficult? You can tell me, you can ask me questions. I mean,
Understood, sir.
okay. What about the rest of the class? The understanding? Yes or no?
Yes, understood.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. So fine. So if you have understood this, now let's see some video where how this indentation is done. I think this video where I think I had this video. Let's see, this video will work now. See, you can have a look into this. So watch this very carefully. YouTube video. Okay, so this is the load cell. This is a load cell. I mean, so this is the light. Not the load cell. This is the light. Okay. So this is the indenter. This is the material. This is the indenter. Okay. I mean, this is the microscope. This is the Vickers microhardness. Okay, for the simplicity, I will again show you. I think I have to show you again because it might have been a bit hard for you guys. Wait. Okay, I will again start resharing the screen. I mean, the screen sharing is creating some trouble. Just bear with me for 1 minute. I'll start sharing the screen again. Wait. Okay. Fine. Okay. Clearly. This is the material where you have to do the indentation. This is the microscope. This is the lever. Okay. So what did you see till now? I will again drag back, and I will drag back. What did you see? Till now, what did you see? Okay, till now, what did you see? Anyone? This is the material, right? This is the, see, the tip of this. Look at the cursor position very clearly. So, you know, so if you see this very carefully, you will see the Vickers micro indent. Okay, I mean, I cannot zoom in here, but yeah. So this is the microscope. Okay. Watch. Okay. What is this now? This is actually the so this is actually the eyepiece, rather we call it, which is required to rather view this the Vickers micro indent. Okay. In the microstructure. So I think first watch, then we can talk. See, now they are placing this thing in the sample. They are putting on the light. Okay. Wait, yeah. So this is dwell and this is start. Okay, so here you can make a note that dwell time. What is dwell time? Dwell time is nothing but the time in terms of hardness, determination of materials. What you have to do is that the dwell is the time for which indentation is performed in a material, or the time for which an indenter stays within a material.
Hello.
Hello, can you please speak?
Hello.
Can you please mute and speak?
बहादुरी के बेटे ओए
Yeah, can you? I think you are muted. Okay, so fine. So let's progress to this. Fine. So this. So what do you mean by this dwell time? Dwell time is nothing but the time for which indentation is performed in any material. Okay. So this is called a dwell time. Okay. So in general, in my experiments, generally I keep dwell time for around 20 seconds. It depends again. I mean, it again depends on how accurately you want to do the indentation. If you want to do the indentation and you want to get more and more accurate values, what you can do is that you have to do the the indentation for a bit higher time. Okay, it's like that. It's like this. If you want to get more accurate values of the indentation, for example, if you suppose the dwell time is around 5 seconds and you are getting a hardness of around 200 HV, fine. Now you put the dwell time around 20 seconds and you are going to get a hardness of 200 point something. When that point something will definitely give you more accuracy. If you are getting more and more, giving more and more dwell time, your accuracy increases. So this is behind this dwell time. Okay. So fine. So with this, so this is a dwell time. But now what do we do? This is the machine. This is the Vickers hardness machine, micro hardness testing machine. You just switch on the button. See what is happening. Now this is going to indent. See, this thing is indenting, and now after indenting, it has removed, and then they have switched on this. They have put on the microscope. That was the microscope, right? So that was the microscope, and based on this, so this is the microstructure. I mean, this is not been polished at all. See, there are so many scratches, but it's fine. I mean, so now what exactly do we see here? So I was initially saying that you will see a square. Okay, you see a square, and now you don't see a square because now you have you see a square, but you have the indents which are round. Okay, so you can make a note of this, that if so there are two possible cases this might happen. It is because of repeated usage of the indenter of the Vickers indenter or the diamond pyramid indenter. What has happened is that the sides might have got rounded up, okay, because of continuous wear and tear, continuous friction and all. But the sides might have got rounded up, and this is called a barreled. This is called a barreled indentation. BARRELLED, barreled indentation. So this, the sides have got rounded up. So this side has been rounded up. This side has been rounded up. Okay, but remaining sides are fine. So otherwise, a perfect indenter, a perfect indent on the surface of the material will look like a perfect square. I mean, hardly you see such things, but of course. Like in my case, I showed you my microstructure where I saw a perfect indent. Okay? So, but now there is other case also. Now, suppose the side doesn't get rounded up. I mean, there is no wearing of the sides. Rather, the wear and tear happens on the look at the cursor. Wear and tear happens on one side of the indent, okay, or the one not corner. I mean, instead of happening on the corner, it is happening on one side of the indent. So in this case, what you will find is that you will have this thing. You will have the Vickers micro indent, which is going to have a curved morphology. It's like a curve, then it will not be a it will not be a square. Rather, it will be like there are four curves. Okay, I mean the some part of the square has been eaten up, so you will see some curved kind of thing. This will be curved, this will be curved, this will be curved, and this will again be curved. So it also happens. I mean again. So for that, we the ultimate requirement is that we also have to keep on computing. I mean monitoring that this indent, the Vickers micro indent is not worn out. I mean once it is worn out, we have to service it or replace it again. So fine. So this is something that you see. Okay, this is the Vickers micro indent that you see in that microscope. You see. Okay. So now let me again go to the last. Okay, go to the end. Okay, so if I go back a bit, so what is this? So this lever is actually required to rotate from this indent to the microscope. Okay, this is the this is the it's like an optical microscope only, no? So this is the objective lens, and you go. I mean, you can also adjust the magnification. Actually, there are two different lenses here. I mean, I think the other one will be at the back. I feel I am not able to see that, but okay, the other one will be at the back of this, and it will have a slightly different magnification. I mean, one is around, I think, if I remember, okay, yeah. So one is around 50x, and the other is around 200x magnification. Generally, I tend to do my experiments at 200x magnification. And there, what I essentially see is that I do see that there is this thing. I mean, when you go for around 200x magnification, you have to adjust. You have to adjust the height of the specimen, because the height of the specimen is again important, because if you want to have a good resolution on the surface of the material, you need to adjust the height properly so that you are in perfect focus. You don't hit this thing, or you don't go up. I mean, you don't go down this. Okay? Go down that particular height. I mean, in this case, this is the particular height where there is a proper focus of the specimen. I mean, a proper focus by this lens on the specimen or the sample, and this is the lever which is used to rotate. Okay, I mean, nowadays it is mostly automatic. Earlier, this lever was used to be there. Now this lever is not used at all. I mean, it's it's a complete automatic setup. You don't need to do anything. I mean, just to press the button, it will start indenting automatically itself. So fine. And another thing I wanted to show you is this. Okay, this another thing. Okay. See, if you very carefully observe this, yeah, you can carefully observe this thing. So these are the two screw gauges, kind of screw gauges that you are having. So why do we have this in the material? So for that, you need to appreciate this thing, that you need to look at so this thing. Now you have to measure. So in Vickers micro hardness, what do you measure? In Vickers micro hardness, you essentially measure the length of the diagonals, the length of this diagonal D1 and the length of the other diagonal D2. So what you have to do is that you have to ensure that the zero position is at nearly the center, and that you can adjust by these two screw gauges rather. And then you have to ensure that one of the lines passes through one of the corners of the indent, and the other line passes parallelly and through the other, I mean the opposite corner of the square indent. Okay? This is a square indent that you see. So it will be like, this line passes through this, the other line passes through this, and you just measure the diagonal. You will be able to do it, automatically. And the second case is that you have, if you rotate this 90 degree, what you will have is that this line will pass through the top rounded corner, and this line will pass through the bottom corner. So it will be also, so this was the initial diagonal length D1, and the second diagonal length was the D2. So you have two diagonals now. Now you are able to measure two diagonals, D1 and D2. Now based on that, what you are essentially able to get. So we are able to get two things. I will show you. So this, so now you will be able to measure the hardness. Okay. The other thing is, you can measure the hardness as HV is equal to 2p sine alpha by 2 by d square. I mean 2p sine alpha by 2, the total thing divided by the d square. Okay. What is d? D, okay. So D, I'm making a simple assumption, but okay. But generally the D1, this is a diagonal length 1. This is a diagonal length D1, and the second diagonal length is D2. So if you put this alpha as 136 degree, so it is 2p sine 68 degree divided by D1, D2. Right. I mean, if it is a rectangle, so what is the area of that rectangle? I mean, I'm not thinking of it as a square, because most of the times it might not be a perfect square. So what you get generally is 1.854p by d1 d2. And if it is a square, this d1 will be equal to d2. In that case, what will happen is 2p sine 136 degrees. So this is 136 degree. So by 2 means sine 68 degree divided by d1 d2. I mean, d1 d2 are equal. So if you consider that d, so it is d square. So it is 1.854p by d square. Okay. Any doubts you have, please ask now. You got this, how the hardness is calculated based on Vickers microhardness? I mean, this D1, D2.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
okay. So this video, was the video interesting? Or video was, I mean, you want more explanation of the video? You all saw the video, right?
Yes, sir. Does the work. I mean, gives an idea.
So that is something which is practical. I mean, these things will be interesting once you touch these machines. So once you touch these machines, to do your own experiments, you will be able to appreciate more. Okay? You'll be able to appreciate these things in a greater details. But of course, I'm showing you the video so that the entire session becomes interactive. If people are just not bored about, I'm just talking about these things. 136 degree, and then people might think that, okay, why the hell is it 136 degree? Because of course the geometry of the indentation is like that. So 136 degree by 2, and then why am I suddenly writing d1 d2? And this d1 d2, I mean, I'm talking of a rectangle where I have the diagonals as d1 and d2. And now what is, so you might be seeing it here. So in textbooks you will be seeing this image. Okay, as I have taken this from one of the internet sites only. But definitely, if you don't see the video, or if you don't do the experiment, I mean, experiment doing is impossible for you nowadays. But okay, but if you see the video, you'll be able to get more. You can have you have a lot of other videos related to this. You have a kind of the other videos are nearly kind of. I mean, on Vickers microhardness in YouTube, if you can check in YouTube, you will get all these related types of videos. So there you can appreciate these things more. I mean, of course, I'm trying to explain this, but okay. Okay, fine. So now you have some idea of what is slip line, Brinell microhardness, and Vickers microhardness. So guys, can you? Okay, I think it's too late for doing a class work, but okay. What I will do, I will make this as your homework rather. I will put this as your homework. The next slide, you don't have to worry about it. I will maybe give you this thing as a later, at a later stage of some food for thought. But okay, I want to get this done today. But okay, guys, one thing before we wrap up for today, one thing is, guys, do you know about? Have you downloaded this ImageJ software? I think I sent you a link long back. ImageJ software. Did I say I sent you the link, right?
Yeah, downloaded.
Yeah. So you do one thing. What I will do, I will send this image to I will send this. I will share this image. Okay, in this folder. Okay, in this folder which I've created in the Google Classroom. I will share this image. What you guys can do is, it will be a very good exercise. I think you can be able to do this only once your exams are over. You will just do just follow this thing. So you have to measure d1. This is d1. Okay, this is d1. This is a horizontal diagonal is d1. Vertical diagonal is d2. Okay, so you have to measure this d1 and d2 from based on this scale bar. So I have also given you this thing. This is the scale bar. And based on the scale bar, you have to measure this d1 and d2. And based on that, you have to tell me what is the Vickers microhardness. Where I have also given this data that load that you are going to apply is 2 kg. That is 19.6 Newton. Okay, so this is the load that you are going to apply, 19.6 Newton load. So उसमें क्या होगा कि उसमें you have to measure this d1 and d2, and based on this d1 and d2, can you use the you use this formula? I mean, definitely it's a straightforward thing. 1.854 into p. तो p पता है तुम्हें क्योंकि p है 96 Newton or 2 kgf, and this d1 d2 you have to measure, and just put this formula, you find out this hv. And mainly this Vickers microhardness value you measure in terms of hv, or you can also write it in VHN, Vickers hardness number or DPN also some people write, the diamond pyramid number. Because the why diamond pyramid number? Because the the indenter is in the shape of a diamond pyramid. So because of that, so people mostly write it as HV. So you can better to report this hardness value as HV. Okay, so instead of other things, so HV. This HV, based on that, you can you just try to. So I said this is one thing. The second thing is this is just another kind of food for thought. I was initially explaining that you will see this slip lines around the indents, but here you don't see some slip lines. What do you see on the corners? I think this you can answer in the class itself. What is this? What are the things that you are able to see here? I will zoom in more. Can you tell me what you
Seems to be a sort of crack or something.
Not sort of crack, it's a crack, right? Not sort of crack. Okay, so it's a crack. Okay, so can you tell me? Okay, so now apply. थोड़ा सा दिमाग को जोड़ लगाओ और बताओ मुझे. In this case, if you have a crack, okay, so in this case you are having a crack. In my experiment, in my material, I did not have a crack. Rather, I had slip lines. So what do you understand from this? उससे क्या पता चलता है? Simple. There is no metallurgy. Very simple thing.
It is more brittle than the previous one.
Right. So in this case, so this kind of thing you will see when you do it on a ceramic. If you do it on a ceramic, it is brittle, right? So it's a ceramic. You do the Vickers micro indentation, you will no way you will be able to see slip lines. You will be seeing all these cracks. But again, these cracks are sometimes very essential. I mean, people want to induce cracks so that, I mean, of course, not in engineering applications. In engineering applications, you induce cracks, you're gone. I mean, the entire structure is going to fail like anything. But of course, in if you are having cracks, okay, this can be used to find out in later stages. You will learn this. If you have the cracks, you can find out the fracture toughness of the material also from this cracks. Okay, from the width of the crack you can measure. I mean, it's quite hard, but okay, for you this is too much. So I'm giving you a simple experiment, a simple job to do. This is the load. The load I'm giving you around 19.6 Newton. This is the load. This is the, so you just have to use this images software to measure this D1 and D2, and then put it in this first formula 1.854 P by D1 D2, whatever. I mean D1 D2 here, I think it will be nearly the same, but better to always be on the safe side. Instead of using D square, use this D1 D2. And then I'm sorry, yeah. And then D1, D2, and you just find out the Vickers micro hardness. Okay. And so fine. That's the second question you have already answered. So you people are quite intelligent. So very good. So so the other thing, okay. So I will not drag you into this, but I will just do some brief talk about this. This is a very small 1 or 2 minutes piece here. See, so do you know what is this? Have you seen this kind of thing anywhere? Have you seen this kind of shape? This shape, have you seen? Don't worry about the questions. I will change the questions. I will not give you that. I will not a professor. I will not give you that much of pressure. So I'll change the questions. I will make it simple. So fine. Just you tell me whether you have seen this kind of a shape anywhere. See, earlier shape that I was showing you was what?
And those tetrahedral voids.
Tetrahedral voids. Okay, tetrahedral voids. Okay.
I mean, similar to the
shape. Shape to theek hai, but yeah, it's not, I mean, okay, tetrahedral voids. Okay, it's a tetrahedron, you can say, but okay. So you can, if you want, if you get some free time, you can just appreciate this thing when you just go and read about this nano indentation. It's called nano indentation technique. See, nano indentation technique, there is something which is very interesting. I will talk about this maybe in some future, because now, I mean, first of all, you people have to understand what is plastic deformation. Then I can talk about nano indentation. I will explain this. See, I will just take maybe 2 minutes. See. The first of all, see, in this microstructure, what do you see? I mean, other than these two indents, I mean, don't now forget that these indents are there. But what other things do you see in this microstructure?
Some grain boundaries and
grain boundaries.
Patches of some other phase present here.
Some other phases. So यहाँ से common sense लगा के बोलो कि if you have a Vickers hardness, I mean this indentation, where the size of the indent is itself bigger than the size of the second phase or whatever this your island, the size is much better than this. So do you think this is a proper way to measure the hardness of this phase also? I mean, this phase is fine. This phase is very, very big grade, and this is fine. The second, this
we have to minimize the size of indent.
Minimize the size of indent. So in that case, what you have
maybe up to nano scale.
Yeah, right. So See, so metallurgy, everything is based on common sense. It's so easy. So if you take us very small, so what you have to do is that you have to have a small inlet. You have to make a very, I can show you, I think I have the images, but okay, I have to publish that, I mean, I have to submit it for publication, then I can show you. In my published paper, I will show you the images, okay, very good images I have captured. So there what I have done is that I have done the indentation on the two different phases, okay. Here I have done the indentation here, the indentation there. I mean, this is before doing the nano indent. I'm not showing the nano indent in this image. The nano indent, I have did that, and based on that, you can, I mean, because micro hardness testing is only going to talk about your hardness. But this nano indentation technique is very much advantageous. I mean, you know, it's going to talk about more things. See, only knowing the hardness is okay. It's going to talk about about the overall strength of the material. But see, overall strength of the material itself